Late in the evening, at his mother's request, a boy goes to meet his brother and disappears. When he returns, he remains the same age even though 8 years have passed. NASA scientists were surprised when they learned where the boy had been. A flying saucer hovers above the city, transforming into a frisbee disc which is caught by a dog. But before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and turn on notifications to receive our new videos. The fact is, a flying saucer catching championship is held in the city park as part of the Independence Day celebration on July 4, 1978. Trained and not-so-trained dogs participate, including 12-year-old David's dog. Unfortunately, the dog couldn't show its best performance, and David's younger brother Jeff mocked his training skills. Their parents are unhappy with the constant teasing between the boys, so they forbid David from bullying his brother. After the competition, Jeff asks permission to stay with his friend while the parents and David go home. David is upset, especially since he met a girl he likes, but he doesn't know how to start a conversation with her. The father tries to give his son advice, but as evening comes, the mother asks the boy to meet his younger brother, who is walking home through the small forest. David, feeling displeased, goes to meet Jeff in the woods. He notices the dog's uneasy behavior, especially towards familiar objects like a flying saucer model, which seem mysterious and frightening in the dark. Jeff, wanting to scare his brother, jumps on him from a tree in a fit of rage. David is about to punish Jeff for the prank, but the dog's alarming barking distracts him. He goes after the dog and ends up falling into a deep ravine, losing consciousness. When he regains consciousness, David makes his way out of the dark woods and goes home. However, an unfamiliar elderly woman opens the door, not recognizing David and not understanding what he needs. Confused, David rushes into the house, only to find a completely unfamiliar setting. When he goes to his room, he is met by an elderly man. Overwhelmed, David sits on the stairs and cries in fear, not understanding where his parents are or why the house looks completely different. The concerned people called the police when they found the boy and took him to the station. They began searching for his relatives, and then one of the staff noticed an announcement about the disappearance of a 12-year-old boy from 8 years before. The officer took the boy to the address of the parents who were looking for their son. On the way, the boy was asked questions, and he answered them all correctly, except for the year 1978. When they arrived at the house, the detective knocked on the door, and David saw his father and then his mother, who had noticeably changed. The parents rushed to greet their son, whom they had lost hope of ever seeing again. At this time, a UFO was discovered near the city, having crashed after colliding with a power line support in the area. Attempts were made to establish contact with the aliens, but all efforts were in vain. Meanwhile, David is taken to a clinic for examination. The parents try to find out where he has been over this time, but David does not understand the question as he leaves to meet his brother just a few hours ago. Then, a teenager enters his hospital room, turns out to be Jeff, and this shocks David. He does not believe the boy's words until he shows a flyer with an announcement about his disappearance. The parents never stop searching for him for a single day. In 1986, the older brother has become the younger one. Meanwhile, an artifact they found is transported to a NASA hangar. David begins to hear a strange call from an unknown source asking for help, which alarms Jeff. However, a letter reassures Jeff that his brother has been examined by doctors and declared completely healthy. At the same time, scientists are attempting to access the spacecraft, but no earthly technology allows them to do so. There is not a single seam in the hull, and it is unclear where the entrance is. Meanwhile, David continues to be examined, and they discover unusual brain activity when answering questions about what happened in the missing 8 years. The boy's brain communicates directly with the computer and draws an image of the found UFO on the monitor. The prints of the drawing go to NASA, where Dr. Faraday is responsible for studying the found device. David is shocked and extremely afraid of becoming a guinea pig for scientists. He categorically refuses further examinations and demands to be returned to his parents, who support him and take him out of the hospital. Dr. Faraday asks for permission to examine David at the NASA base, as it would be better for the family's peace of mind to find out where the boy has been and what happened to him. He also wants to ensure that if it happens again, they will be better prepared. Moreover, it would take no more than 2 days. David agrees and goes with the doctor to the NASA Resource Center. As they drive past the hangar with the UFO, he hears someone's call again, but he must have imagined it. In the room prepared for the boy, everything is equipped with the latest technology, but the door is locked, which David does not like. He turns on the TV, marveling at the strange shows. Then, a delivery robot enters the room accompanied by a girl named Caroline. She jokes with the boy and answers his questions, surprised that David has not seen music videos and does not know the latest fashionable performers. Caroline says goodbye, and David is left alone. Later, he calls his parents and complains about being locked up. The parents remind him that they are waiting for him in 48 hours. The doctor begins the examination. Moreover, the computer reads the answers from his brain before the boy has time to voice them. The first experiment yields astonishing results. It turns out that although the boy himself does not remember anything, his brain stores a vast amount of information describing the journey he made on an alien spacecraft to an unknown planet called Felon, which is located several hundred light-years away from the solar system. Due to the effects of relativity, the journey took only a few hours for David, while 8 years had passed on Earth. The brain continues to answer questions and shows us a star map indicating the location of Felon. It turns out that the boy's brain is literally stuffed with invaluable information, the study of which can take years. David realizes that his worst fears are coming true. Obviously, the examination will not be eliminated for 2 days, and he may not even dream of a normal life now. Carolina confirms this, mentioning that she saw his menu plan for a week in advance. David asks the girl to find his parents and tell them this. At night, he wakes up from a persistent which becomes stronger and finally understandable. The boy climbs inside the room service robot that arrives in the room, which takes him to the hangar where the crashed UFO is located. The UFO immediately opens the entrance from which our floating staircase appears. David enters the ship and becomes familiar with the ship's computer, which identifies him as the navigator. It reveals that all the necessary star maps are programmed in David's brain. Suddenly, the guards notice the open hatch and sound the alarm. The scientists rush to the hangar, which the ship's AI reports to David. She suggests they escape, and the ship takes off, breaking free from the chains and flying out of the hangar. David requests to fly 20 miles away, and the ship swiftly ascends into the sky. The boy explains that he just wants to leave that place, and the UFO ship returns to the hangar. David is impressed, but the ship doesn't understand his excitement. It then showcases a first-class maneuver racing over the Earth at an unimaginable speed. David gradually gets used to the pilot seat and even starts to control the UFO. They stop over a field, and David asks to open the doors for natural needs. At the same time, there is confusion at NASA's center as it is unclear how the boy managed to reach the hangar unnoticed. Information about the UFO's whereabouts is received, and a group of helicopters is dispatched. In the meantime, the ship explains that it was testing the capabilities of the human brain. To do this, it uploaded details of star maps and other information necessary for the ship to return home into his memory. This turned out to be very prudent, as the ship's memory was damaged in the accident. Most importantly, the ship always returns the research subjects to the same time and place it took them from. But it turns out that time travel is very dangerous for humans. At this moment, a helicopter approaches the UFO, and David hardly seeks shelter in the spacecraft, asking to be taken home. The ship changes shape and takes off so fast that Earth's machines don't have time to notice where it went. During the flight, David finally guesses the ship's name and calls it Max. He asks Max to stop somewhere they won't be found, and Max descends to the bottom of the ocean. The amazed boy looks around and sees strange creatures that Max has collected from various planets for research. They are all different and possess interesting properties. Some have powerful grips, while others have bizarre appearances. Max will send them all back to the place and time from which they were taken, and they won't even notice their absence. David notices a small, amusing creature that is happy to see him. The creature is complaining that it's not being returned home, not knowing that it perished in a collision with a comet. David is playing with it and explaining to the ship why humans laugh. At the same time, David's father calls Dr. Faraday to remind him that his son's time at the NASA base is coming to an end. Faraday then orders Caroline to be found. Meanwhile, Max begins scanning David's brain, downloading his memories of everyday life. They even manage to argue like brothers. David comments on Max's ability to control the ship, and Max grants the boy authority and shuts off the engines with 15 seconds left before crashing. David finds the control panel and the ship soars above the planet. At the same time, Faraday's people find Caroline, who is telling David's parents what happened at the base. The people are shocked to learn that the boys are currently flying in a spaceship to an unknown destination. The girl tries to escape, but she is taken to the base, and David's parents are forbidden to leave the house. In the meantime, the ship hovers over Tokyo, where onlookers take photographs. Then, it sets course for America, because David wants to go home. While flying over San Francisco, David stops the ship in a deserted area. He is lost and wants to know where to fly. Noticing a car below, he descends towards it and asks for directions to Fort Lauderdale. But the stunned people speed away. Max asks questions about strange sounds coming from the car, and David explains that it's music. The AI likes this and tunes into Earth's radio. The ship rises over the planet playing music, while TV news reports the appearance of UFOs over different parts of the world. The doctor realizes that the boys are flying home and calls a car. Meanwhile, David commands the ship to stop over a small gas station. The boy steps out under the stunned gaze of the owner and calls home. At the same time, a car arrives at the gas station, whose owners are thrilled by the attraction and ask permission to take pictures with the UFO in the background. David speaks to Jeff, who promises to send a signal pointing to their house. The boy enters the ship, and it takes off, leaving the witnesses behind. Meanwhile, Jeff finds fireworks and goes to the roof of his house. Police and military vehicles head towards the ship as it approaches Fort Lauderdale. At that moment, fireworks burst in the sky, and David realizes that this is his brother's signal. His parents run out into the street, meeting the military as they arrive. Simultaneously, David despairs, feeling that they will never leave him alone. However, he steps outside only to say goodbye to his parents. Finally understanding the hopelessness of his situation, the boy returns to the ship and asks to be taken to the past despite the danger of evaporating. He bids farewell to Max, hoping to see him again someday. The ship sets the destination to the past. Sometime later, David comes to his senses in the same ravine where he fell 8 years ago. He runs home and sees his parents, who are waiting for him to launch the holiday fireworks. He confesses his love to his mom, hugs the dog, and reconciles with his brother, whose eyes widen at the sight of a strange creature emerging from David's backpack. Fireworks bloom over the sea, and Max's farewell words are hard, as he has for Phelan. This is a kind and naive Eve sci-fi from the late 80s, with unprecedented special effects for that time and an entertaining plot. Most importantly, the absence of aggression still allows it to be recommended as a good family movie today.